Greetings, everyone. My name is Coleman. I also go by Cole, and welcome to our panel on Mars University. We're on a mission to build the interplanetary academic bridge. So here's an overview and schedule of today's panel. First, I'll give a brief introduction for around 10 to 15 minutes, followed by a faculty spotlight from Daniel Tompkins, and then Bruce McKenzie will speak to the workshops we're planning and the broader vision for our organization, which will be followed by a Q&A and open discussion. So make sure to brainstorm some questions throughout this presentation. So here are the three largest challenges we're addressing: the Mars education gap and unexplored passions, and this kind of lack of ideation and knowledge exchange between young professionals, students, and faculty that really has an underrated influence in our evolution as a species here on Earth and throughout our solar system. Here's a glimpse into the future. Exploration and travel to Mars will be desired from our species for the inevitable future, and the creation of a human civilization demands much larger research. And then we kind of forecast that there will be this overload of data from Mars in the coming decades that will encourage space agencies and organizations to work with partners such as us and the greater international community. And so we've been on this mission over the past year to help co-found a Mars University. It was inspired by three people primarily and their accomplishments, one being Elon and SpaceX, and number two being Robert Zubrin and his Case for Mars book. It's really eye-opening in terms of what is possible and what we are capable of accomplishing as a species. And three by the gentleman of Bruce McKenzie, and everything he's done with the Mars Foundation, and just stumbling into him one night at IAC around a year ago. And we've really forged this beautiful partnership. And the fourth thing being was I was really kind of itching for this education myself. And I would imagine that a lot of other humans on this planet would be doing the same. And so here's our mission and our vision. Our vision is to educate, inspire, and empower humanity to create a habitable world and to extend human civilization to Mars. And our mission is to unite students, researchers, and professionals in a multidisciplinary curriculum and environment to settle planet Mars. And we're looking to develop partnerships with a greater international community, and so we'd be glad to continue our conversation. When I hear the words Mars University, I think of a commitment from our species to really pass on the knowledge and expand on the research that our species has made over the past half century. And I think knowledge is it comes first, and I think that this represents a logical next step in our evolution. And I was thinking, I don't know how recently, but that we might just be the first school on Earth dedicated to becoming multiplanetary, which I think is pretty badass, if you ask me. Go on to the next slide. So here are our initial co-founders, Dr. Shannon Rupert. She has extensive experience at NASA Ames, and she's the director of MDRS with I'm sure we all know her, and she's very well accomplished in terms of her knowledge on field operations and analog missions. Um, and then here's Bruce McKenzie, so co-founder, and he's, I believe he's one of the most knowledgeable people I know about Mars settlement and engineering, and he's the founder at the Mars Foundation. And I've come to deeply admire these two human beings over the past 6 months or so, and I think we've been sharing weekly calls and have been making a lot of solid progress toward building a sustainable organization. And here are wonderful board advisors. We have David Smith from Honeybee Robotics, who's really done some impressive work in terms of designing a lot of the flight software for rovers. And here's Lucinda Offer, the executive director at the Mars Society, and she's really been recently doing some impressive work with STEM education. And Chris Sackney, he's the vice president of exploration technologies at Honeybee Robotics, and Dr. Robert Subrin, the founder of the Mars Society. And here are our wonderful faculty. We have Shannon, she's a faculty lead. And then we have Dr. Catherine Bywaters. She's a research scientist at SETI, and she is very knowledgeable in designing life detection instrumentation and field work. And Dr. Ilaria Snelly is the president of the Aerospace Human Factors organization, and she will be our instructor for the Mars Human Factors in Health and Biomedical Engineering course. And then we have Dr. John Clark here. He's the president at the Mars Society Australia, and incredibly knowledgeable in the geology of Mars, and a whole lot of other things about Mars. And then here we have Dr. Graham Lau. He's a research scientist at Blue Marble Space, and a renowned astrobiologist and science communicator. And Dr. Daniel Tompkins here as well, who should be speaking in our faculty spotlight soon. And he's the founder of Grow Mars, with over 18 years of experience in agriculture in extreme environments. We're really excited to have over 110 interested students so far. And so here's they're interested in our 5-week Mars summer program that we're designing to begin this upcoming July. And as you can see here from the student interest surveys, here are the top 3 areas of studies that our students are currently interested in. There's Mars Engineering and Manufacturing and ISRU, Mars Human Factors and Health, and Mars Architecture and Settlement Design. And roughly around half of our interested students are undergraduates, and around half are have received their bachelor's degree, and let's see, what is that number? Around 50, I think that's 58% of our interested students are from the United States, and as you can see, we have a lot of international students from over 15 to 20 or so countries. And we think this only represents a small glimpse of the greater international community that we're really looking to improve upon. And so we'd like our students to really design their own education and the courses for this 5-week summer program. And so here we can see a lot of the comments from our student interest survey: robotics, ISRU, energy, communication, terraforming, medical. Move on to the next slide. So here's the 5-week summer program we're designing, and a more detailed view and outline. We're looking to co-host around 30 to 60 students with around 6 to 8 faculty members and 20 to 30 plus speakers. And this 5-week program will be, we encourage undergraduates in their second and third year, third and fourth year, rising juniors and seniors, and young professionals and graduate students, really inclusive of all backgrounds. So it will be certificate-based and unaccredited initially, but we think that this program could really be more project-based and hands-on through our workshops and advanced seminars. And then afterward, we'd love to provide mentoring and professional experiences at various organizations and partners and potential sponsors. And we're tentatively planning to have a MDRS analog for around a week accrued mission following the program as well for interested students, with potential shadow and internship opportunities at organizations, either in person or online. And we're definitely gearing toward having this program in person because we think that will be a much more meaningful experience. And here we have our 6 areas of study. Awesome. And here's our application timeline. Our student application should open up in around 1 month on November 13th and close on 2 months later around January 15th. We're also planning on having 2 live information sessions with interested students, one in late November and another in mid-December. And then our scholarship applications would be due on February 12th, if all goes as planned. And then we'd also like for, if you plan to apply, your CV should be tailored as if you're applying to be an early settler, to be on one of the first crew missions to Mars. And we're asking for 1 letter of recommendation, and we encourage professionals in their early career to apply. Unfortunately, we won't be able to accept federal loans for our students for this first program because we're not yet recognized by the Department of Education. And so payment plans can absolutely be made on a case-by-case basis. And we think that this program will definitely be more affordable than similar programs, and in the ballpark price range of around $7,500 in tuition, and that scholarships could cover around 25 to 50% of the tuition costs. And so we're working hard to provide scholarships for around 20 of our students, 10 to 20 of our students. And I think at the end of the day, we're building this new community, and we'd love to help fund your research as a student, alumni, staff, or faculty. I think we could really make a meaningful impact in terms of really improving our technical knowledge on what we're passionate about. And here's our schedule and milestones. We had a wonderful summit with around 300 registered people back in August. That went well. And we're in a great position to apply for and hopefully secure an NSF grant in the coming months. And then, so that'll kind of propel us to this first Mars summer program in July of 2021. And then we'd be looking to apply for phase 2 of the grant, and which should position us in a good place to really help design an actual terrestrial campus in analog, and actually like a Mars Masters program. That's kind of our long-term 4-year plan at the moment. And so we're looking for this Mars summer program to be annual, and that we should be self-sustaining at the start of this upcoming summer program. And yeah, we're really excited, and I think that this schedule and milestones are obtainable. And here's a quote from Nelson Mandela that really resonates. And he mentions that education is the most powerful thing that can change the world. And without further ado, I'll leave the floor to Dr. Daniel Tompkins.
Thank you, Cole. I'm going to do a quick Mars faculty spotlight and walk you through what we envision, maybe a typical space agriculture course and how it would look. Thank you, Cole and Shannon and Bruce, for your leadership and your wisdom in informing Mars University. And I'm really excited to share my years and passion behind agriculture and plant science to the efforts to extend it out into space. I think it's fundamentally important, to both just actually exploring Mars because of the logistics involved, and it's so multidisciplinary. My particular degree is a doctor of plant medicine, very similar to what a veterinary medicine is, or doctor of plant medicine, very similar to what a veterinarian is for animals. We study at the graduate level, and it's a professional practicing degree, studying plant pathology, entomology, soil and water, and science. You can kind of think of it as 3 PhDs wrapped up into one, with a lot of field experience in order to have context for solving difficult problems in agriculture. We're always faced with pandemics. There's always new diseases, new bugs coming in, new problems. And it's a really active, dynamic field that I think has some relevance here. And in some ways, doing it in space should be therapeutic. We shouldn't have as many of those problems. We'll still have abiotic problems, but hopefully it will be a little bit of a cleaner system. So, you know, as part of the coursework here, I've had large-scale international experience in controlled environment agriculture, as well as small-scale organic agricultural experience. So I've really extended myself in a lot of different directions, and I have worked in a lot of crops, particularly in Florida. We grow a huge variety of crops, where I've worked for over 10 years. And also leaning on a lot of the lab work that I've done. I worked in a plant disease diagnostic clinic, as well as basic research in a couple different laboratories. So really passing on kind of the techniques that are needed to both the physical techniques of, okay, you know, how do you micropipette? Or, you know, it's something a typical engineer would have no clue on trying to solve or work within a biological system. So, you know, the coursework would be, you know, very project-based. We'll have a lot of guest lectures, a lot of exciting guest lectures in different areas. There's a lot of specialties regarding, you know, the multidisciplinary aspect of growing in space. And Cole, if you want to go to the next slide. So being so multidisciplinary, biological life support, right? How are you designing your green hab, or how are you, you know, advancing agriculture in a way that allows biological life support to continue? I have a screenshot here, you know, from CIMAC. For Kai's done amazing work with this program. You know, both delving in, you know, from a computer modeling standpoint of how this needs to function. And I mean, it's truly like when your life is depending on the, you know, the food and the air that you breathe, you need to make sure that that system is sustainable and scalable and stable. So, you know, really focusing on modeling that and differentiating it from other life support options, which will also likely be present. Biomanufacturing and synthetic biology, another big important area emerging. The synthetic biology is very broad reaching, but really it's going to be based most likely on the backbone of agriculture, is those feedstocks going into those systems, and it's going to be integrated into the biosystems of sustaining in space. So, you know, there's not really a way around it for right now. There may be some synthetic sugar production or aspects of it that are more automated, but at the end of the day, biomanufacturing and synthetic biology is still going to have to be considered as part of the ecosystem of agriculture in space. Martian diet and crop selection. This is going to be a really fun one. You know, there are so many different schemes and so many different efforts on exploring what a Martian diet would look like. And we're going to do a deep dive into those, both from an area standpoint and also an energy standpoint, what it takes to produce those. Here on the chart, you know, see the amount of area, you know, land use per the amount of protein. And, you know, this is part of the story, but there's a deeper story operationally to growing these crops within a controlled environment, especially a sealed environment, taking into account the thermal constraints, taking into account the environmental conditions. It's just a there are not many sealed environments, especially in a remote location where you're power constrained. There are a few examples out there, but really trying to explore different dietary options and crop selections that may have been missed through other selections, through other efforts, will be a critical part of figuring out what a Martian diet might look like. Greenhouse operations in extreme environments, you know, greenhouse management figuring out, I doubt the way that we plan for a greenhouse to work on Mars will actually be what it turns out to be. Every greenhouse operation that I've seen, as much as they try to design for a specific, you know, application or function, okay, a new technology comes along and then they're changing it all up again. So really being adaptable in the greenhouse management operations, and really understanding, the dynamics of what's happening, and optimizing and increasing efficiency within that system. Photobioreactors, the founder of Grow Mars, we've really identified, the utility of growing algae, structurally to aid biological life support and biomanufacturing, or really manufacturing at its core, in producing plastics from these. This seems to be an integral part in really expanding agricultural production, not just kind of creating this perfect agricultural utopian bubble, but really, allowing us to keep building on that greenhouse infrastructure. So we'll be focused on, how do we outpace entropy from an agricultural system, and go beyond, just maintaining this perfect bubble. So it's just a quick kind of rough cross section of all the different topic areas. And I'm really excited to lead this and also bring in a lot of the expertise and that have gone into this kind of unique field of agriculture, and this certainly unique context to be operating in. And really pass on the tool sets that I've acquired from really a lifelong passion of plants and people. Every time I'm speaking to people, they want to know about organic agriculture, or greenhouse management, or certain food safety aspects, or genetic engineering. It's all really important, interesting topics, both on Earth and in space, and I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm going to pass it off to Bruce.
Hello. So I'm going to talk about workshops. I'm Bruce McKenzie. Been active in the Mars Society since the beginning. Also National Space Society, Mars Foundation, AIAA. Live in Boston. So during this 5-week summer session, we are planning that every student will participate in some intensive workshop. Start out choosing and planning during the first and second week, and then in the last couple of weeks, pretty intensive group project planning, working, putting together something toward a goal related to living on Mars. The plan is that it would be just for the summer session students in person. However, we could run similar workshops available online for anybody. Anyway, so some possible topics for these would be something related to the social sciences, psychology, what kind of social system you want, maybe writing a script or a novel, economic planning. My specialty is more in the technical stuff, outfitting a greenhouse with 3D printed pumps and equipment, or laser cutting furniture for outfitting a habitat. Maybe designing the interior of a habitat, or a rover, or a kitchen. We've been considering having a crew go out to MDRS and another support crew with them, but that would probably not be during the 5 weeks. We have considered and are talking with ISU about some kind of joint workshop for some of the students. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be Mars related. If somebody does, is as much interested in extreme environments on Earth, we could do something Earth related for one of the workshops. Oh, and it's assuming that there would be more than one workshop, 5 to 10 people in each of these workshop teams. So maybe half a dozen workshops to choose from. Over on the right column, we could have one unified topic and have each of the teams contribute some aspect to it, like to design the first permanent settlement, for Mars, with which one team might take the material processing, another team might take the interior design, another team might take the planning, the social aspects, or for a permanent city, or just maybe just the refining and construction aspect. And the next slide, another possible integrated workshop would be designing a campus on Earth for the Mars University to build and move into at a later date. Cole, next slide, please. Across the top, I show what some habitats might look like on Mars. So the first one is the plain settlement designed by a Mars Foundation project. The second slide is an inflatable construction tent inside it as part of that design. That might be 12 meters high. But if you wanted to build a mock-up of that on Earth as part of this campus, you might have an interior, that's what's shown on the lower left. So you might have an interior framework to hold it up if it's not pressurized. And you want it multi-purpose. So it could be an auditorium, a banquet hall, a gymnasium, museum, anything where you need a large space. And then the Earth version of it would also have a basement with utilities. If it's a dining hall, you'd have your kitchen and catering down there. The two upper right pictures are, again, the Mars Foundation's hillside settlement, similar to the Underhill. So Underhill was a design written up, it was designed by me, but written up by Kim Stanley Robinson and Red Mars. And this is a CAD drawing of something very similar, built with masonry. So anyway, if you wanted to build something like this on Earth as part of the campus, it might look like the lower right, where you have the masonry structure as if you were building on Mars, covered with regolith to hold the dirt. But instead of that several meters of regolith, you could put classrooms on top. There's a big, over on the right is a big construction area or a high bay. You could hang bungee cords in the ceiling and try out 3/8 gravity simulation. Next slide, please. And we're doing good on time. Several people have asked, can they attend online? And for the summer session, probably not. We would love to offer online activities, but this was started just the three of us. We're up to, less than 20 people who are actually doing it. That includes the faculty. I know there's interest. If people want to help offer online activities, I personally would like to push this. But we really can't take much of the time from the other people and the faculty. So anyway, if you would like to help with some kind of online activity under the name of Mars University, contact me and I'll bring it up with the other people. This has not really been approved, so we'll have to see what happens. But anyway, we could have a team that cruises the web looking for good quality, academic quality tutorials, papers, videos, maybe creating tutorials and courses. This is an ideal thing to do if you are sequestered at home because of the pandemic. There's my email address and phone number. And next slide, please.
Yes, yeah. I
can't remember what the next slide is.
I wanted to speak real quick
yes.
to this slide.
Yeah.
I think we're definitely interested in organizing an online, a short online program, maybe through something like edX or Coursera or so we'll definitely continue to work on this.
Yeah, I'm kind of putting Cole on the spot. We need more help if we're going to do this. Also, if you want to suggest potential speakers or faculty, We think we have enough faculty members, but there's always a chance someone will drop out. So
yeah, and this could also be a segment of a workshop at this summer program.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, I should have mentioned for workshops, there were several times when we thought of expanding the scope to include education, you know, prospective teachers, artists, and we still can do that. So I had the idea is that we could enroll a group of future teachers, you know, college students who are getting, say, a master's of education. And they could be within the same community, interacting with people who are designing either the social or physical aspect of our settlement. So, you know, things can still change and be expanded if there's interest and people to help. Cool, let's go on to future vision. It was Cole's idea to come up to do a Mars University. And the moment he mentioned the phrase Mars University, my mind started racing. And I was thinking, why didn't we do this before? Why didn't, you know, why hasn't this already happened? I was around for the 3-day founding conference of the International Space University, and I helped at the first summer session. So I have some idea how that started. We don't want to emulate some of the things ISU did, but having seen ISU get started, this slide here was my personal vision of what a Mars University could be. Now, we're only working on the summer session right now, but my concept was, hey, we'll get a bunch of online stuff ranging from casual tutorials to online courses for credit. We can have in-person courses at moving around between campuses, later offer a master's degree program. That's definitely our hope for it. Everybody's hope in this is to get a master's degree program going at some time in the future. Maybe some research stations, something like MDRS, but able to accommodate more people and focus more toward construction and settlement and living. And eventually a campus on Earth. One of my suggestions, I used to give a lot of presentations and people would ask me, who would want to go, you know, what do you do if people, you know, change their mind? What if one spouse wants to go and the other spouse does not? And the answer I give to them is, let's have a program at a undergraduate university where people who probably want to go to Mars live together in the same dorm, same dining room. They go to the same summer program, something like Mars University. And some of them will decide that they are, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend or you know, boyfriend and boyfriend, whatever, and apply as a couple to go to Mars, having met each other in a Mars program at the university level. Anyway, so next item is, someday I would like something like Mars University to open a satellite campus on Mars. You know, after there are cities and people are, you know, having families and children on Mars, and we could then move the main campus to Mars. Now, people going to Mars and coming back from Mars to Earth or going on to asteroids will spend a lot of time in transit, and it's going to be pretty boring. That's the perfect time to take what used to be called a correspondence course. It would be something like the remote courses that we're learning about during this pandemic, except there would be a time delay. So if you're going out to an asteroid, you know, there might be even more of a time delay than there is between Mars and Earth. And so this Mars University could someday become an expert in how to do time-delayed education. How do you run an academic seminar if there's a delay? And I picked out these 3 pictures. 2 of them are 40 years old, if you can believe that. The little picture in the middle with the red capsule was an artist had the idea 40 years ago that a prospector could someday buy the International Space Station surplus, government surplus International Space Station, which you see in the lower left of that, just below. And he would take this International Space Station, put some ion drive on it, go out and prospect an asteroid, and if it had valuable minerals, then he would claim it. And then the lower right is one of the toroidal Stanford toruses under construction. I encourage anybody who doesn't know about them to go to ssi.org and learn about the ideas of orbital settlements from the 1970s. One of the guys I looked up to is Professor Jerry O'Neill, who back in the 70s figured out with a bunch of freshman students that if you took all the materials from all the asteroids and used them to construct orbital settlements, you could have millions of them. The total usable land area in those millions of settlements would be about 3,000 times the Earth's land area. And the come away from this is, if we can get the first factory to the moon or asteroids to build another factory and then an orbital settlement, then someday trillions of people could live beyond the Earth. So 99% of your descendants might not live on the Earth. And I think Mars is a good stepping stone because we have, it's easier to live there than in free space, and Mars University is a good stepping stone to settlement on Mars. And the image in the upper right is by Brian Versteg, and it shows the 2016 version of asteroid mining and building a space settlement. So that's it for that slide. Any of us can take questions, and I'm hoping Shannon Rupert can join us by phone. She lives in rural Washington State, and she gets to test low bandwidth communication from Mars on occasion from her house. So, and there's our email address, info@mars.university. There is no .com or .org, just info@mars.university. James, how do we handle questions?
Excellent presentation, gentlemen. Thank you for that information. There are several questions in the Q&A. A few of them Bruce has already answered in the chat session. Let's see if I can get a couple of these out of the way right off the bat. Attila asks, can someone join the Mars U team and help on the organization? Bruce, I think you addressed that in the chat. You provided the contact information. If interested in Mars University as a student or to help.
Real quick, I wanted to follow up on that
Go
question.
ahead.
I think students, thank you, Attila, for your great question. I think students will be really well positioned following the program to get more involved with Mars U and everything we're doing as alumni.
All right, excellent. Billy asks, what would be the prerequisites for online classes?
Okay, no one's speaking up, so I will. It is aimed sort of centered around graduate students, but we want to accept undergraduates who are rising juniors and seniors. I personally expect a lot of early career professionals to also be interested. There's probably a backlog of people in their 20s or of any age who want to change career or change focus to space or Mars. So there's no, you don't have to have majored in any particular thing. We expect a lot of the people to have an engineering background, but we are also hoping for a wide variety of what I would say social science interests. Daniel, do you want to, can you clarify?
Was Shannon able to make the call?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
here.
good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Shannon.
Okay, so the reason I hesitated to answer the question was I wasn't sure if I'd heard right. So let me preface this by originally our focus is on the summer program, and the summer program will not be an online course. It will be an in-person course. Now, I might have heard that wrong, but I thought the question was talking about online courses. The summer program will be an in-person. So in terms of the Prereq, it's really what you need is one of the things we're going to do is we're going to do a lot of group work and team projects. And so you have to have a pretty good mastery of English. So that is kind of one of the considerations. Beyond that, you really need to have an interest in a career in some ways Mars related, whether that be settlement, whether that be entrepreneurship, whether that be in science or engineering or any kind of research, or even, you know, law or as an artist. We also, of course, you'll need to be, you know, in college at a minimum, a freshman, but for the most part, we're looking for upper, you know, third and fourth year students and young professionals. So the student body will be very diverse in a lot of ways. You know, of course, we're hoping to get people from all over the world, from all different, very diverse. We are hoping for a very, very diverse student base. And so that's one of the beauties of wanting that diversity is, and getting that diversity is that you come at these problems that we're going to try to solve in this course from all different perspectives. And so, you know, long story short, or short story longer.
As kind of a follow-on to that question, Harley asks, what is the target that you were hoping to achieve for your graduates? For example, would they be future Mars colonists, entrepreneurs for Mars-related startups? What skills are you hoping to equip Mars U students with?
So the answer to those first two questions is yes and yes. I mean, we're definitely looking for people who have long-term goals of humans to Mars, and how we get there is we need everybody. We need everybody's perspective and everybody's, you know, inspiration, I guess I would say. What was the third question? Because it's really late. I know you guys, it's later for you guys, but for me, this is way past my bedtime. Third question again?
Yeah, it's 2 a.m. here.
I know I'm on Pacific time, but my bedtime's usually around 8.
I missed the third question, but I wanted to add,
third,
we're interested in people of many different types of diversity. So first generation college students, people from a different culture, different religion. I have seen some perspectives about living in the frontier that are quite different from people from, you know, Africa and Southeast Asia. So it'd be good to get a wide variety of backgrounds. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to Bruce and Shannon here. I think the student team projects throughout the entire program will also be research or kind of entrepreneurial focused, and so I think there is definitely some synergy with entrepreneurship and kind of propelling startups forward, and I think we could really equip our students with a high degree of technical knowledge and adventure and passion and kind of rejuvenated enthusiasm and all the above.
The best learning is when you're not in a group of identical people. You don't want a bunch of people just like you in your group to either learn things or work on it as a team on a project. Go ahead.
By the way, that third question was, what skills are you hoping to equip Mars U students with? And I think, Cole, you spoke to that. Another question that we have here from Harley is, are there any open source software projects that could help Mars U, perhaps opportunities for autonomous systems?
Not in my wheelhouse, so somebody else is going to have to speak.
Yeah, I've been following the makerspace movement, and you would think that there are open source 3D printed databases where you can download a 3D print design to print something. And I thought we could furnish a greenhouse from that, with pumps and valves and pipes and hangers. But it turns out, at least when I looked, nobody had a pump that worked. It's very hard to get a good tight water seal in a pump for your greenhouse. So yes, there are some open source projects. They're not, they need to be extended. So the 3D printing comes to mind. There are open source software. There's open source autonomous driving cars that might be adapted to rovers. There's open source little toy robots, right? Toy rovers, but toy size, I mean. I'm not sure about the quadcopters, but there are some open source systems for that. So probably, and we need more people to help us find such things. That's all.
Thank you. I think this question is directed towards Daniel. Richard asks, do you have facilities to do plant phenotypic selection for varieties adapted to greenhouse operations in harsh environments?
Yes, excellent question for on plant selection. I think there's a variety of plant selection filters that will address one, basic regolith processing. Probably the best plants, from speaking to others that have worked with Mars regolith, it's an incredibly difficult soil, quote unquote, to work with, and probably some weed species would be critical for kind of pioneers to first try to remediate that soil into a usable substrate. So I think from both utilizing the raw regolith and extracting minerals that we can use for plant growth, all the way to what are the best crop types, crop characteristics for this unique lighting environment. Absolutely, traditional plant breeding as well as genetic engineering will be covered. There are simple things to do, that you can do with traditional breeding if maybe just genetic engineering isn't the right pathway. For the time and logistics involved in it. You can do exactly what this what this person is asking in the question. Do phenotypic selection to change that species, or identify, oh, we have some divergence in this population, and this is good for Mars. So on a just like we did thousands of years ago when we first took corn, like a corn plant from a small little corn cob all the way up to the big ear of corn it is today through natural selection. I think paying attention to those differences and utilizing both traditional plant breeding techniques as well as genetic engineering will be critical.
I want to add to that. There are cases on Earth where they use plants for things other than food. I believe there are some species that if you have toxic soil, you can use these plants to concentrate heavy metals and get them out of the environment. And that might be especially important living in a closed environment anywhere. And I'm assuming that we will be using plants for a lot of things for biofuels, we might be growing algae to make a biofuel oil or
Shannon, there's
kerosene.
a lot of background from your audio.
Shannon, yeah. PLA is a corn-based product that can be used in 3D printers. And you can even use waste products like sawdust or shredded corn stalks. Put it in a mold and grow a fungus in it and make kind of a lightweight brick any shape you want. So anyway, one advantage of expanding into a new environment is we will learn things that might be applicable back on Earth, and we don't even know what all the problems will be, and it'll be very interesting to watch civilization expand into a new environment, either Mars or space in general. That's all.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to both of Daniel's and Bruce's responses. Richard, I think we're kind of now in the stages of working with Daniel and other instructors, in discussions about, what facilities might we be able to provide during this program. And there's some really exciting conversations in the coming months that we're looking forward to.
One final question here. Marutha asks, if Martians invited you to set up your university there, I think she's speaking to the on-planet campus that you mentioned, what locations would you prefer and why? Would you charge any tuition fees on Mars, and what would be the currency mood on Mars? Thank you for the great panel.
Okay, I will jump into that. Currency is a separate question. There's a good chance we will have some sort of free enterprise on Mars at some point in the future, but maybe not right away. But we're not going to have a Mars University on Mars until there's a lot of student-age people there. I wish you hadn't removed the question. Okay, as far as location, while thinking about different settlements on Mars, one of my ideas was have a north-south highway that connects regions of different climate. So you might have when I say highway, I mean sort of like a route that is commonly followed by automated rovers. Wouldn't necessarily be paved, but you could link the polar ice caps where you get you could be manufacturing there. You could link agricultural settlements in the mid-latitude. You could link them to an equatorial launch site or even a space elevator terminus, and so there'd be one or more towns growing up into cities along this trade route, and you'd want to be in next to one of those cities. I hope the towns and cities are planned in advance so we don't have the urban sprawl that we have here on Earth. So you could have a academic town in Cambridge, after Cambridge, England, and Cambridge, Massachusetts. So I would say, whatever the major city is where people, should move to for an academic experience. But by that time, things may look different. We may be much more comfortable with remote learning. And in fact, the remainder of this pandemic is going to change education, for better or worse. Anyone else?
Thank you, Bruce. I'm sorry I took that question away from you. I didn't realize you were looking at it. Did anybody else have any other comments on that question? If not, I think that we're going to wrap up here. James, did you have any close? Oh, I'm sorry, Shannon, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I absolutely love Bruce's visions. His vision is inspiring.
Thank you. There's one last question. I don't understand it. You can write to us at info@mars.university. Try to answer that question. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you to all of our panelists. And James, did you have any concluding remarks?
Congratulations to the team for working on this project. It looks great.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.